So the first time I experienced it was these are all reflections. उस time पे कुछ नहीं चल रहा होता है. You just see, and what is actionable you act on it. What is not actionable you let it pass. ऐसे होता है. So I was sitting in some mountain, in some forested mountain, in top of some place, and it was we uh, we operate mostly only at night only, in complete darkness. So and we operate in buddy pairs, like two guys, like that. So me and my buddy were sitting on this very very extremely dangerous place, and we were we were doing a job that we had come for, and it was all about waiting. So
Dangerous because of human beings.
yeah, so it's like enemy or whatever. So you're sitting there and you're waiting. So at that point of time, it was my turn. So we give sentry duties, right? Guard. So because you have to sleep as well. So we have like 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on the kind of threat perception there is there, and depending on the kind of operation, depending on kind of circumstances, your length of duty expands or contracts, whatever. What is the need of that particular op? So I was sitting there, and it was my turn, and I was बैठा हुआ था, and I had a night vision goggle hanging around my neck, and my weapon was on my lap, and like you sit in a yoga position, and you fold your legs and you sit like that. So I was sitting like that, and on my lap was my weapon, and I was staring into the darkness. There was a particular place I had to look at, and I was just constantly just looking at that and waiting. So my buddy was asleep, and maybe hour and a half had passed, and I was just waiting and waiting, and I heard some noise right next to me, like a foot away or something, 2 feet away or whatever. So I just heard a noise. So I couldn't see, it was pitch black. So I switched on my night vision goggles, and ऐसे मैंने ऐसे check किया, and I turned to look, and I saw this leopard sitting right next to me. So like where this flower pot is. So I was ऐसे देखा, and that's the first time I saw a leopard, like. And मतलब मैंने शायद zoo में भी I have not seen a leopard or whatever. So I saw this fellow sitting right next to me, and he was staring at the same place I was staring at for the last hour and a half. He was also looking there only.
How far was he?
Just
Less than a
here. He
meter.
was sitting here, yeah, less than a meter. So just sitting there. He was sitting on his haunches, and he was upright, and he was just sitting and he was just looking at where I was looking.
One leopard next to another leopard.
I don't know, one animal next to another animal. So I saw this fellow like this, and then I took the night vision goggle, and my weapon was pointing ahead. So I turned my weapon's barrel towards this fellow and switched the safety off and put my finger on the trigger and waited. If it kills me, or if it attacks me, I'll kill it first. I was just sitting and waiting. And about 4 or 5 minutes, I just kept sitting there, and then slowly got up and walked off. And so that's one thing. And then when I reflected back, I realized that where we were operating, there were a lot of scorpions, there were snakes, there were this. And we're constantly in that kind of terrain, and we never got bitten.
What were you thinking about with the leopard?
I wasn't thinking anything. If it attacks, then I will have to kill it.
What's the consciousness exchange there?
So it's like in the world, like for example, you and me, right? When you have a different life, I have a different life, you're doing different things, I'm doing different things, etc., etc. But when we come and sit in one space, we find what's common amongst us, and we settle into that commonality, and a new dimension opens where we can be one and do the same thing, head in the same direction.
What's happening on this podcast?
Yes. So exactly is how is that leopard and me were sitting. He was also peaceful with me. I was not an anomaly in his environment, and obviously he was not an anomaly. He or she, I don't know, was not an anomaly in her environment. He was just sitting. So we were both in alignment, both in peace, and both just looking at the same thing.